All right, let's start with a very, very brief discussion. This is going to be the beginning of a little blueberry painting, but I want to show you first, as we do the blueberries, what we're going to do with them. What we are going to avoid is having a blue circle on our paper. What you see up here is the sunshine, which means this area is going to be the lightest. It's going to be in the light, so this is going to be the darkest. As we do the blueberries, I'm going to put a little green. I'm going to put a little yellow. They're going to mix together. That's okay. I'm going to add a light blue. Sky blue, you may have cerulean, you might have manganese, doesn't matter. I'm just going to lay that in. See that blossom? No, I don't mean blossom, kind of a fireworks. That's okay. I'm going to lose my green into the blue because the paper's so wet. What I want to do primarily is to protect this part of the circle from the pigment so that it stays lighter than the rest of the circle. Now this is an ultramarine blue. It's going to be a stronger blue than the others. And I'm not going to paint this whole circle with this. So you probably have a bit of a semicircle here. It's cut in half. I'm going to bleed that up here so it doesn't cut it in half. And I'm going to get a darker blue now. You might use a Payne's gray. You might put orange into your blue to make it more of a midnight blue. But this is going to be the darker side. So this is the lightest, the medium, and the dark. When this dries a little bit, because I did bring a lot of water over here, I'm going to add, that's a dab of yellow. I'm going to let it bleed. And oddly enough, I'm going to add some red violet. I'm going to put it in and I'm going to pull it out. Now, this is going to appear odd right now, but when we put it into context with the other blueberries, you're going to see that we do have something other than just a flat berry. For example, right here. See the colors combined in here, in here, in here, a little bit of color in most all of them. So it keeps me from having a paper full of blue circles or spheres. What we'll do later, as we do these blueberries, I'm going to pull up. Now, this is not an official name. Let me pull this out. What is a, let's call it beach ball effect. Do it with the round brush. This is going to take time. Pull it out. I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to dry my brush. If I don't clean my brush and dry my brush, I'm just going to put this pigment right back down. That's the round brush. Now I've got a little 1/2 inch flat, and I can use that to do the same thing. It really doesn't matter. You use the tool that works best for you. Now, right now, we're moving them toward the light source. We're not going to do that on every berry. The crown of the berry is going to be basically a black dot. We'll do that at the end. We'll come back, and if these are too apparent, we're going to blend them out. We're going to paint between them. But this is pretty much how we're going to begin each of our blueberries. What you see now is I previously wet this paper. I let the water soak into the paper until it's damp. I've added a little of the yellow in most of the berries, and I have put in the light blue in most of the berries. Not all, because I want you to watch me do some of them. So I'm going to add the yellow. Any yellow you want. If you want to do yellow ochre, lemon yellow, cad yellow, new gamboge, use what you have. Now I'm going to get back into a light blue, any blue that you have. It's not dark. I'm going to avoid that. That's going to be a leaf. I'm going to put some in here, just like I showed you previously. And I'm saving that light source. In the event, and it happens when we're working wet, in the event that your paint drifts over your light source, that's fine. I'm going to get a paper towel, and I'm just going to pull up. Let's see where I can do this so you can see it there. Little light in each one. Remembering we have decided that this is where the light's coming from. Now I'm going to get a little bit of the red violet, not a lot. I don't want it to be crazy red violet. And I am putting it where I want to put it. You'll know if you like it or not. If you don't like it, change it. Now you see my paper bleeding, my paint bleeding outside of the circle. It really doesn't matter. Later we'll add a background. If it bothers you now or it's bleeding too much, I'm picking it up gently with a paper towel. I can also clean my brush, dry my brush, and pull it up that way. Any way that works for you. That has bled a little yellow in there. It doesn't matter. It's going to turn into a green leaf. Some of the yellow bled into my stem. It doesn't matter. That's going to turn brown. So right now, we're pretty much good to go. I'm going to test the paper and see if it's okay, if it will tolerate me putting in my basketball, my beach ball, excuse me, marks. And it is too wet. So I'll try the tip of the round brush, dry, dry. Every time I swoop this, if my brush is, when I say dry, it's just barely damp. See how I'm pulling this out? Slowly, slowly, but surely. If we get up here and this is too dry, I can just draw in. You're not going to see these this well in the end result, but that's what I'm doing. I'm getting basketball or beach ball shapes here. Now, if my shapes get too big, that's not a concern, because I can come back later, paint on either side, and define that line. Lots of ways to do this. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to work some more on the berries, then we'll come back to the leaves. Okay, for this step, I've pretty much completed the berries. I'm going to hold this up. Do they look like blueberries? Not yet, none I've seen, but this is just the beginning. We haven't put the crowns in. We haven't put these little circles in context with limbs and leaves, but they do have a variety of color. Let me see if I can end them. One, see up there at the top, is absolutely green. That's fine. I might even, if I need to, add just a red one. That's not what matters to me. Now, let's put this aside. Let's go back to this sheet of paper, and let me show you briefly what we're going to do with the leaves. Now, not shooting for realism here. What I want is this to appear like a leaf. So I'm going to dampen one side of it, not both, just one. And I'm going to do like we did before. I'm going to stick a little yellow. I'm going to put, this is a blue-green. Why did I choose it? I like it. And I'm going to leave it alone. Now on the other side, when this dries, and it hasn't, I'm going to add a darker green right over my pencil mark. I don't mind the pencil marks. I'm going to bleed that out. I'm going to add some of the blue that's in the blueberries. Matter of fact, I'll drop a little there. Some more green and or yellow, whatever you decide. None of these are going to look the same. None of them. And I'm going to leave it alone. Later, we'll come in, we'll put veins in, and we will have shadow shapes. But for now, we're going to lay in just simply the colors that will translate as a leaf. Let me tell you about this pink right here. You've seen me use this before. This is made by Pilot. It comes in different colors. I use the marker tip. It comes in ballpoint. It will disappear when it's heated. So I have my drawing, and when I blow dry this, and you'll see it later, the pink will disappear. If the pink disappears prematurely, I'll put it in the freezer and my drawing will come back. That's what I like to use for this. Okay, let's lay in. Now, I'm not wetting this leaf yet. I'm bringing the water over from my brush. And I'm doing a little blue, little green, little yellow. You see where the blue bled in? That's okay. we're in the beginning stages of this. We're not real concerned with that. We might be later, but not right now. We're just sort of laying in leaf where we want leaf, berry, leaf, berry, leaf, bear between two berries. Now, I'm going quickly, but carefully. This is not a, you know, often you'll see a watercolor and it looks like it's done so quickly and so loose. Those are often the hardest to do and the ones that take the longest to do. All right, you see how I'm beginning to get the idea of what's leaf, what's berry. I just inadvertently painted a stem green. That's okay. Or blue. I'm going to do all of the stems. I'll explain this later. In a light blue and or green. They will eventually turn brown. We'll paint them brown. But in the meantime, let's see, let's put a stem here. If you want to put a stem somewhere there's not one, do it. If you want to stick a blueberry out here, do it. See, that's round circle. You'll notice not all of these are the same size. That's okay. Actually, that's wonderful. It's not the same size. All right. That to me looks too heavy and too green. Don't like it. I can pull that up with my brush, rinse my brush, dry my brush, absorb that with the brush. What I want to do is resist becoming a dabber, 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 dabber. Put it in, dab it out. Put it in, dab it out. Now this needs to dry a little bit before I go in with the limbs. You know, while we're watching paper dry, paint dry here, let me take a minute for shameless self-promotion. I know these are short, these are brief demonstrations I put on YouTube. I do teach. So I would love to have you Google me, go to the website, which is jennysaltus.com. I'm going to take a minute to spell that for you. JennySaltus.com. You'll see that information on some of my other YouTubes, but while I've got your attention and we're watching paint dry, I'll give you that information. What I'm doing is testing to see just how dry this is. I'm not touching it with my hand. I don't want my body oil in my paper. It's still a little damp. So let me show you what we're going to do with the stem. So far on the stem or twig or branch, we've got a blue line. I'll do one from another direction. The bigger one that comes up here, we have a blue line. I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to get a brown. And I'm going to go just on one edge of that. Now, you're going to see right here, I said I was going to let it dry. I didn't. It bled. That's okay. That's okay. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more of the yellow, and in spots, I'm going to add the yellow so that I don't have just a flat brown line through my painting. If it gets too flat, rinse my brush, dry my brush, pull some of it up. This is just the first step. We can go back, we're going to adjust, we're going to correct. So I'm going to do it over here, just on one side of this. Now this one has dried, and see, it's not going anywhere. It's right there. Dry brush, clean brush, dry brush. I'm going to bleed out places of this and break that line up. And I'm going to avoid equal spaces. So if I have this space here, I'm going to put more here. Then I can come back in. I can put some yellow or not. Remember, we're going to do a lot of adjustments later. We even may want this to be browner. So let's go back to here. By now, this is dried. I've got my brown. I'm going to come in here. See how I've laid that in? Now, before it dries completely, I'm going to rinse my brush, dry my brush, bleed this out a little. I'm going to get my brown. I'm going to do the same thing here on one side. My blueberry overlaps. So I'm going to do that. This one, see, wetter than I anticipated. I'm going to leave it alone. Go over this one. And I'm going to do this with each of the stems. Let's see, there's got to be one in here. Check myself. Okay, make that a little wider. Now, watch. You see this space right here? I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but I am going to add, because it's an awkward space, a red violet blueberry shape. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Not quite round enough, so I'm going to make it rounder. Now, being careful, see, I'm on the tip of the brush. Now I've got blueberry here, or the red violet here. I think because it's here and here, I'm going to add one here. Why? Because I want to. I like that distribution. And I'm going to stick a little more of it up here. And maybe some down here. Now, we've got to get this dry. So I'm going to blow dry this. And I'm going to mute for a minute. You can watch me blow dry it and watch this pen disappear. Now that was fun. And right now we've got a nice little painting. We can continue or not. Watch what happens when I put some, let's put some veins in the leaves. There doesn't need to be many here. See, we don't want to make this start looking, actually, that's probably enough. Now I'm going to darken in here a little. I'm going to darken the edge of this. What I'm doing now is just sort of detailing without overdoing. Now I'm going to mix or use paint gray or whatever you want to use, a deep, deep blue. And to see it visually, you're going to think of it as a black. Now, these are the blueberry crowns. They look a little bit like stars. In some, I'm just going to put a dot. In some, now I'm going to move this one down so it's not quite on the edge. They're all facing the sun because, well, this one's not. I'll put this one in. In the demo, that's how I did the beach ball stripes. The beach ball stripes don't go toward the sun. They come out of the crown. Now see the difference that's making? Let's put one in here. I would avoid putting one dead center. Gonna look at this. They don't all need a crown. I think it's pretty obvious right now. We have a nice painting, small painting, nice small painting of blueberries. That's the goal for this lesson. I'll come back later in a different video, part 2, and we will wet the paper again, and we will begin adding a background to it. But for now, let's leave it at this. And it's time for you now to do some painting. So I'll see you in part 2.